So welcome, welcome, welcome. I am your host, Mrs. M, and this is our Crack the Gov Code State Masterclass, all about understanding where we are with federal, pros and cons of federal and state, and then also anyone that would love to give me some pros and cons that have done state contracts, that would be great as well. So we all know that, or we should know, there are a lot of changes. Even today, we've got a lot going on. And I'm your host, Mrs. M. Thanks for joining me. And my goal is to give you as much as I can with what has worked for me for state contracts, pros and cons, and things that you can work and implement right away if you're trying to do a little bit of a pivot, or if you're trying to add state to contracts to your already federal, you're trying to add state contracts to your business, because it's all about scaling our business to six figures and beyond, and government contracts is a way to do that. There are all sorts of ways to do that, digital products, so on and so forth, but I find that having government contracts is a really, really great way. So we know we want to make money, money, money. And the state of Florida is one of those places we can do that with government contracts, as many. But there are a lot of moving parts. And so we kind of want to go over that today. And also, there are some pros and cons. So we're going to talk about what may be a good fit, what may not work for you. And so that is where we're going to look at. So, why state contracts? Well, one of the reasons why I like state contracts is the fact that they're disaster recovery contracts. They can be pulled together for long term. We all have heard that on the federal side, there's not going to be a lot of the federal getting into the state contracts. Normally, the states would activate; they would be the ones that would activate and say they're declaring state of emergency. And what the federal side would normally give would be either assistance with the Army Corps of Engineers, or they may give assistance with other people, boots on ground, and then it would help definitely with funding. So now the new administration, the Trump administration, is looking at states taking more of that. So they're kind of looking at states doing more of the taking on the role of being the whole lead. Hopefully, they're not looking at them being able to do the financial piece, because I know a lot of states still look for funding from the government in order to pay people that they help work on state contracts. So we're crossing our fingers that doesn't change. We've understand that state contracts can be easier to win. There are people that have never won a federal do very, very well when it comes to state contracts. And sometimes the pay can be faster, depending on the state. And I understand that the barriers are easier to enter into state. You don't need to have a cage code. All of those things may not be what you need. So let's look at cracking the code for getting into state contracts. So you'll learn about state contracts, city, county, what's the difference in those, pool contracts, some of the requirements for doing a state contract, understanding there are state certifications out there, and then looking at a couple of websites for bidding opportunities. So let's look at what we need to do. So a little bit about me. I was in the military for over 12 years, got out of the Air Force, and loved being in the military, but knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I've been fortunate to be a serial entrepreneur, because I usually will start them, scale them, and look at maybe exiting out, having someone else run the company, or selling it. So after I realized one more important thing, that you cannot build a business on your own, no matter how much you may try, you're going to need assistance. Now, these are employees and they could be subs. I have a combination of both. So I use the 60-40. And that's what we call the infamous middleman, which I had a lot of things that I was receiving contracts on, private, government, state, federal, that I did not know how to do the work. And I was able to find and vet a really great person to do the work. Now, the myth is you can put it into play and just not have any hands on. I do not believe that to be true. I believe that you're going to have less if you have a very experienced subcontractor or middleman situation. But I believe you're still going to have to be the person that's talking to your client, making sure that they're delivering like they need to, because the contract is ultimately in your name. So you never want to just put it and forget it. You always want to have some kind of once a month you're checking, because that is where the pulse of how well the contract is. Because sometimes the client won't tell you until you receive the paperwork that the contract's been canceled. So we always want to make sure that we don't have the mindset that we don't ever have to do anything, and that we can just kind of go and do be in la la land. No, you want to still know what's going on with your clients and your subcontractors. So I started doing this in 97, 98, and I had a lot of people say, Miss M, Miss M. How do you find the contracts? That was the number one question. And number two was, how do you find the people to do the work? Those are the two questions. And maybe number three might be the funding. But how do you find the contracts? How do you find the people? And how do you find the funding? Has been the three most asked questions that I can think of in doing anything when it comes to leveraging people. Setting up systems probably would be another thing I get. And how do you find other people that are like you that you can maybe kind of work around and work with? So after a while, I started realizing there were people that were interested. I was able to get great results for myself. And so then I started wanting to get results for other people. And I started doing speaking engagements and conferences like this one in Atlanta. And so we want to focus. So, like we say, let's focus. So, there are going to be a couple of tools that are required in order to crack the code for state. And I look at it as my requirements, education, avenue, and profitability. So first you have to meet state requirements. And one of the things is making sure that you are registered in that state. Now, I know some people, one of the individuals that I think is on here now, had great success on state, not really focused too much on federal, had very good, very, very good success with state contracts and had some experience in what the state contract was under. Let's say it was debris, and was very good at vetting individuals to help do the work, but had to meet the state requirements. So if you're already registered in that particular state and you have your limited liability company or sole proprietor, however you're registered, the difference, one of the pros and cons in state and federal is that with the federal bid, you can do it anywhere. I can be in California and get a bid in Florida and not have to be registered in Florida. With a requirement with state, I do have to be registered in that state. So when I was doing business in Florida, which I'm still in Florida, but when I was doing business in Florida years ago, there were a lot of opportunities in Anderson, South Carolina. So what I did was I registered in Anderson, South Carolina, and I registered in the state. Now, when you're looking at that, that may be something that you want to really focus on. Having a state presence in the county that you want to do county bids is very important. If you're looking at doing bids for the city, you want to make sure you're registered in that city. If you're looking at doing bids for the state, then you can have a higher level and just do more of the state bids. But a lot of times when you're looking at doing disaster relief, I know in the state of Florida, if you're looking at doing Orange County, Florida, they're going to give preference to people that are in Orange County, Florida first when they're looking at doing that bid. Have you noticed? I don't know if you're still on here, and excuse me, let me get this phone first. I don't know if you're still on here. Have you noticed that to be the case, Bree? Or if you're still here, have you noticed that being registered in the area has been a positive for you?
It has been positive for me.
Okay.
Um, I haven't had any issues with it. It would be wonderful to not have to register in every state, but I didn't know if there's any way around that unless it's just federal. So,
Exactly. There isn't. The only thing around it is now you cannot register, but your chances are going to be decreased because they do look and give points for people that they feel are invested in the county. I think
mhm.
county bids are even more important when you're looking at doing work for disaster recovery. That's number one because so many people come from someplace else who never thought about doing anything in that state. They hook up their wagon, and next thing you know, there's a hurricane and these random people are coming, and that's where a lot of scam and things like that get started. So that's why with the disaster recovery, it's even more important that they're only looking to do if it's a hurricane in Pinellas County, they're going to look for people in Pinellas County first. Then they're going to look for people in the city of Tampa, and then they're going to look for people in the state of Florida. That's the pecking order.
Ah,
Yeah. So it kind of goes close and then goes out depending on what they're needing. So those are you're going to get more points for if you got a county presence, then a city, then a state. Definitely more than you can't even do any work if you're coming from someplace else. And, unless you're one of those large disaster restoration places and you're already set up and have presence. So presence is important. And it makes sense if you already know that this is something I want to do. If I know that discovery, a disaster recovery contracts are something I want to do, I know that this state has a lot of opportunity. I know that where I live, like maybe in Maryland, there's too much competition. I know people in Maryland may look out in places, North Carolina, South Carolina, places that they feel there's not as much competition. as there are in Texas, Florida, sometimes DC, Maryland, Virginia. So those are options, but you must meet the state requirements. And I think it's worth it if you start seeing that you're going to be profitable in those states. Now, I have had buyers for state contracts ask who is going to be our point of contact with you being in Maryland. So that's why you want to have a presence there. You can say, well, I have someone there. That is the key to them getting awarded that contract. One of our students, that was the key. They were able to say, well, I've got a team member that's there. I have a presence there. So they ended up getting their license and everything in that county and all that because they realized there were great opportunities in something they wanted to do.
Okay.
The other thing is all about educating yourself. This is understanding the research. I've myself have noticed that once I start spending more time, I start to see how many counties and states and cities and all that have a lot of similarities on their sites. I know for us, Florida is marketplace for finding state bids. And then there's other websites I'm going to share with you for finding county bids. And then there's some that have the states of all everywhere. And we use that with our students where they have access to all the bids, state, county, all of them, awarded contracts. You can see who won, the names of the vendors, the list of how much they won, all on one platform. And that's what we use with our students for our state, Crack the Gov Code state. So what you can do to educate yourself is become familiar with your state, your county. Remember, a state bid is within your state. Florida Marketplace is for state bids. Um, EVA is for Virginia state bids. So you want to know, part of educating yourself is, I'm looking at doing state bids. Let me find a platform that I can navigate. Some are going to be free, some are going to be paid for. There is a vast difference in paying for some and some that are free. All kinds of information that you could not find on a free site, the accessibility of it, the time frame you get it. There is a reason why the sites are paid sites. The information that you receive before anyone else knows, we call it the intelligence. All of that is what you're paying for. Speed is a big thing. So yes, you can spend months navigating all this, and that is something you can do, and you're going to need to do because you're going to need to educate yourself on what type of bid is going to be a good fit for you, where to find the bid opportunity, deciding on if it's going to be a state bid, a city bid, a county bid, based on what is your goal and where do you see yourself in, let's say, 6 or 12 months. Is long term, short term? All of those are factors that we kind of discuss with our students, but you want to start thinking about now. Avenue, which way do you want to win a bid? How do you want to win this bid? Pooled bids are my favorite. When they pool all the bids together, there are two types of pooled bids. One is when they pool the county and all the different agencies together and there's one vendor. The other are when they have pooled agencies and pooled vendors. So they may have 12 vendors on one, and I'll share with you an older one we have from Miami-Dade. They have all the vendors, they have the several agencies, and it's like a 10-year contract. These are a slice of heaven. And I know that Breeze experienced that. I think she was able to win a bid that was for a nice amount of money doing a pooled bid in South Carolina. There are some people that have a lot of success on city, state. But like I said, you want to start discerning how do you want to win this bid? And it could be from doing your education and learning that you feel that you're a better fit for a pooled bid. You may feel you're better fit for a city, or I think I'm going to start on the county level. I'm going to be able to do more marketing because I have a 9 to 5 and maybe I have to market on the weekends. So all of that is how you want to figure out after doing some requirement researching, educating yourself more, what way do you want to win that avenue? And that's going to make a difference. So Bree, would love to get a little bit of your insight between the pooled bid, the city, state, county. Which one has been the best fit for you?
Uh, the pool bid has been the best for me. Um, and so believe it or not, for the city bids here, there's just not that many.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so the pool bids and the state bids have worked out best for me.
And so that's what's interesting because some cities, like the city of Baltimore, has a lot of city bids. Baltimore County has a lot of county. So there's county, Baltimore City, Baltimore County. There's where I live in Alexandria. There's the city of Alexandria. There's Fairfax County, and there's Fairfax City. All of those are different. And so the pooled bids are sometimes really great. And just think of the pooled bids sort of like GSA. GSA is a form of a pooled bid for federal. All these different agencies get together and purchase things, and that's kind of like your MSA schedule for GSA, General Service Administration. So we want to look at how we want to win. Bree has been very successful winning some bids, and she's done some pooled bids, and she's found a lot of success in state. So just depending on what you're offering, some people do a lot of side, some of the highway, debris. There's all kinds, transportation. There's all kinds. So don't get limited to just thinking of only one kind. Start doing your research and kind of looking at where are you in the process. And last is profitability. This kind of answers the last question of how you should decide, do I have the resources? Do I have the money? Do I have the funding? Do I have access to capital? That may really have a lot to do if you're going to do a county bid. It's local. I can reach out to the individuals. I can market when I'm available. It could be that you're real good with being able to travel because you've got people set up in other places. And so you can go outside of a state and not even have to really visit that much. I know I was able to do business in DC and have still business in Florida because I have a team already set up there. So I didn't have to fly back and forth all the time. This is all about profitability. You want to have a way to know if this is a bid I should go after. We love calling our go, no go. You have to have a system in place before you spend so many hours spending all this time spinning your wheels, and you may find out this bid is not profitable, or you might think you're not going to be able to do it and you realize it is profitable. So those are the things you want to look at with our REAP. And pooled money can be very, very good, very, very county bids pulled together, great contracts. So relationships can 2 times your growth fast. If you're looking to do quantum leaps in your business, relationships are one of those things. Relationships with your subs, your vendors, your suppliers, your buyers, and your employees all make a big difference. I know I had great relationships with my subs, and it made a difference, all the difference in the world. What have you noticed, Bree, as far as your subs? I mean, having a relationship with them has worked out really well.
That has worked out very well for me. And so I think it's important to have a relationship with your subcontractors and also their group. So not only the boss, but also the people who are working for them, who are actually, doing the work, the whole crew, so to speak.
Oh,
I think
absolutely, because
it's
they're your front
beneficial.
line. They're the ones that are working with your customers. And
Hmm.
so their face of represents your business. Some people don't know if they're a sub or you or employees. So just seeing the face is going to make all the difference in the world. And always remember, you can only leverage so much on just your own. Yes, you can start out like I did with just yourself. And I had one sub. And then as I started making money, I had two and three. Then I started hiring employees because sometimes insurance companies can be a little bit funny about having nothing but subs. Sometimes they do want to see your payroll, and payroll companies do sometimes want to see, depending on the industry, a couple of employees versus all subs. But it can work. I did like a 60-40, then a 70-30. Probably the most I ever did was 80-20, 80 subs and 20 employees. But I always try to have subs and employees both. I think both are a great mix. So relationships are key, and teaming. Teaming right here would be a very big deal because if you're in Florida and you can team with someone like, say, on our Facebook group that is in Texas, you may not have to register in all those states. If you can team up with them and you can get a great synergy where you can trust that they will get the contract and you can still work with them. So teaming may not have you having to go register in all these different places if you can build that team, and they may have the resources or they may have the contract. And so you can team together and fill in the gaps. And this has been two things that I did: building a relationship with subs and employees and having great teaming partners are two of the reasons why my business was able to quantum leap and do so well so soon. So this is another success story with Pam and Deborah. They were able to do 85 million with the transportation contract in North Carolina, probably about definitely within 90 to 4 months after coming to become a Crack the Gov Code student and coming to our conference. They literally were, like I always say, they're the exception, not the rule. When your stories of people getting $1 million contracts, normally they're going to have had experience in what they're doing, or they've been a corporate person, so they're familiar with building teams. But normally there's some experience they have. Either they have the funding, or they have the confidence in what they're doing, or they really, really know how to interview well. They definitely usually are relying on some previous experience to make this happen. Not that it can't, but I definitely see the similarities in understanding the industry, so they don't have the learning curve with the contracts and what they're doing, or they understand contracts so they don't, and but they're maybe new in this industry, but maybe they've worked for someone else and they're doing this on their own, their business. In other words, they're not learning the industry brand new, and they're learning contracting brand new, and they're learning business because there's a whole knowledge of how to run a business no matter what kind of business. So I believe that the success has been probably they have two out of the three when it comes to that. So they were able to win a $85 million contract. The first one they won was 500K. Then they won 85 million. And we have interviews with them as well on our Facebook and various social media. So if you stay to the end, we will give you some of the list to reach out for state certs. There's the woman-owned, WBE, Woman Business Enterprise. E are for the enterprise, those are state. So you have your federal certs and you have your state certs. I think the certs definitely do make a difference. I know people that have won that do not have certifications on federal level and state level. They've done well without winning. I know sometimes you may get points. Some only opportunities are only if you have that cert. So let's say you're small disadvantaged enterprise or woman business enterprise or minority business enterprise or veteran business enterprise. Sometimes you may get 10 or 20 points. How long you've been in business, you might get 10 points, and you may get 20 points for something else. And or you may only have a bid available if you are one of those type of enterprises. So have you noticed if the certs help you, or have they not mattered for you, Bree?
So I am actually not certified.
Okay, so that's an example. I know people that have won federal bids and have never had certs. So I know some states, Georgia, I've seen Georgia state bids, they can be a bit rough. Seen a couple of Georgia bids, state bids, Maryland bids can be a bit rough. So those are when certifications, I think, really play. And if I notice it, it's when there's a whole lot of competition. So you're really trying to not lead with your cert, but maybe only be in the pool of people that can vote, that can provide a proposal for that particular cert because they're veteran and set aside for veteran only. It narrows down the pool of people. I noticed that is very, very important when you're in areas like Maryland, Atlanta, places where there's a lot of competition, large areas, large people doing contracts, DC, Maryland, Virginia, Atlanta, Georgia, not so much in North Carolina. I don't think Pam and Deborah were certified, and Bree has won, lots of money and contracts, and she hasn't been certified. So I definitely see that you can make that happen. I just think that it does depending on kind of where you are. So this is for anyone that's ready to make money, ready to do it, ready to make it happen. And I believe being valuable and visible. We started hearing about federal contracts and mission critical and mission essential and justifying why you need to have that contract. Well, any of my students that have been with me, I've always said, don't treat this as a little side hustle, little something, something to do. No, treat it as a viable 6-figure, 7-figure business that can go from 6 to 7 figures faster than you think by putting in value. What are you adding to that customer? Everyone wants value. Value could be saving them time, saving them a software, something that does something faster, save money. There's definitely something you want to. That's why we talk about creating a signature offer that is going to stand out, and that may help you when it comes to educating yourself. How am I going to stand out? Making sure you understand that. And being visible is just being able to not stand on the sidelines, but getting in the game and just bidding. So many people kind of wait like the jump rope before they jump in. So that's another thing you want to do. So number one, meeting the requirements. Number two, understanding research, crack the GovCode state. Number three, avenue, how you want to win. And also you can become very good at SLED, which is state, local, and education bids. Don't forget education bids. That's another great one. So we call them SLED. And there's a list of a lot of this where you can actually get the SLED bids and listing and see what states are doing the most on. So you can kind of use research tools to research a lot of this to know what states are more favorable to women, to men, which states are doing more bidding on this and that. You can kind of map out these strategies before, and this is what we do with our students, helping them map out which states are on, which states are popping, which ones are winning more, what chances are more increased for you. And so number 4 is all about being profitable. So if you think of REAP, we look at requirements, education, educating ourselves on this. What is the best avenue? And the last thing, is this profitable? Will you be in the red or will you be in the black? That's what you want to think about. So do you want to win a state bid, city, pool, county? And now I'm going to share my screen so we can look at a couple of the actual websites. So the first thing I want to share with you is this list of over 796, which we call our NIGP code. State bids, county bids are either going to be NAICS codes, but not the same NAICS codes that we think of on federal. But there are going to be NAICS codes, still the same, NAICS, but they're going to be different. And then they're going to be these NIGP commodity codes, and they are governmental purchasing code or National Institute of Governmental. And so you can see that these National Institute of Governmental Purchasing is all about what is the code for various commodities. And this is just one from the from Washington, D.C. Now, I'm going to share with you Miami-Dade, one of their pool contracts. And this is one of the ones we are still registered with Miami-Dade. And this is one of theirs because this is a debris. And they have their pool contracts. And this is one of the actual ones that they have. $2 million with a 5-year contract. They have their contracting officer. They show it as a BPO, blanket purchase order. They have what departments are putting in the funding, the commodity codes, and I think on this particular one, they had around 12 vendors. I think they had 14. And this particular person is in, they are in Fairfax, Virginia. So you see that they're bidding on something that is even outside of where they are. So this is what we consider a pool contract with pooled agencies. So you have both. The agencies are pooled together, pool their money, and then they also pool their actual they pool their actual vendors, vendors and companies together as well. Is this similar to the type of pool contract that you did when you got started, Bree?
Yes, yes, it is. The
Okay.
mine had it had more people on it, but thankfully I was still able to get a slice of the pie.
Exactly. There are some that have, this is a 5-year, 2 million, 2 million, 2.525. So 2,525,000 for 5 years. So you just figure out, how many, some people get more, some get less, but you can at least see that some people you're going to get some of it. So some people may have more experience, they may need different equipment. And so they may get more of a certain percentage of a highway or, certain areas that they're going to service. So that's what you kind of want to look at. There are some pooled contracts where the agencies pull it all together and there's only one vendor. So Miami-Dade is one of the ones we've dealt with. And we also have done quite a bit with when we look at Orange County, and this is Orange County, Florida. So this is one where it is multiple agencies, but one vendor. I'm very familiar with P&L Maintenance. Their contract ends on February 28th, 2026, if they exercise all their options. This is the buyer, the procurement officer, and then we can find out all about them. And I can look at the contract, I can see all the particulars, and that is there's no, they didn't have a bid protest. You can look if there's all this information, and this contains what they call another, instead of pool contracts, they call it cooperative language. This we call a cooperative contract. That means that there are more than one agency that is cooperating together. So they could be pooled contracts in your area. They could be cooperative contracts in our area. Just the language may be different. So this is one of those that it is a pooled agency, but one vendor. Miami-Dade, I showed you where there were multiple agencies and multiple vendors. This is one vendor, but it is a pooled or a cooperative type contract, is what they kind of say in this area, in the Orlando, Florida area. So you do want to look at education bids. And I love pooled bids as well, because I love the fact that they're long term, the fact that you can usually get started without having a lot of experience because you're on there, you're not a single point failure. P&L, they've been around for a minute. I've seen them in the Orlando area. They do a lot of Walt Disney World, so they have a very, very great, they have a real great presence and a great reputation. So I think someone would feel comfortable. They've been vetted enough for them to feel comfortable with them being the only one on this. But one of the great things about when you're getting started is you may not have the experience, but that's a good place to get your foot in the door because of the fact you're not the single source. You're not the only game in town. So if something happens, you're just one of many vendors they can just pull off and keep it moving, as opposed to being the only vendor on that contract and having to print it out for a bid again. So just understand there's pros and cons. Pool contract is probably a best fit for a very brand new company that's getting started, that may not have the experience and the past performances to be on a contract on their own. Different places have different exceptions. And this one I think is like a $36,000. So there's 85,500,000, but there's small ones as well. So don't think you have to look at $1 million contract in order to do that. Now, I know in some places, and I think in all of them, that you can 100% middleman it out. Have you found that to be true for state contracts in your state, Bree?
Um, to be honest, it's not something that I've seen. So usually when I bid, they ask you if you're going to use a subcontractor and how what percentage you're giving the subcontractor, but they don't
Gotcha.
say that there's a minimum,
Yeah,
right? So
they're,
I
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, no, go right ahead. So they've never told you there's a min or a max.
Correct. I always do 5149.
Okay. So I know that there are some individuals that will do 80/20. I've never seen anyone, I've never heard if you do want a 100% middleman it out on state or county. I've not seen them say no, but that may be a part of the bidding process on selection. They don't even tell you. That may not, that may be something they do behind the scenes. So I
Hmm.
probably would say, even though you can do a thing, doesn't mean you should. So I probably
Right.
would never openly let go in and say I'm doing 100%, but I know I've done 80/20 and I haven't had a problem with that. And I know that's been my mixture, and you heard what Bree's mixture's been. So I definitely probably would not 100%, but I know when it comes to federal, there is a limit that they let you know of. And right now they're redoing the FAR, which is the Federal Acquisition Regulation, which covers all federal contracts. So it could change. I'm quite sure it will. But I know as of right now, 250 and under, you could 100% middleman and out. And then after that, you'd have to do a 50/50 depending on what was the industry, if it was construction or have you. But I know that I've not seen any min or max on what you can do for the middleman, and so that is something that may be state particular, or maybe it's behind the scenes bidding that you don't hear about, but they look to see what you are doing. They don't want you probably just snatching up all these contracts and middlemaning 100% all of them, and not being a part of the contract. So that is basically what I wanted to share with you, understanding where you are in the process. If you've done federal and you're starting to see a shift, you may want to move towards state. I personally like doing private contracts, state contracts, and federal contracts. I like doing federal contracts and county contracts and education. In other words, it's sort of like having a portfolio of a lot of things that you might want to mix in there. Now, I'm not saying having 20 NACS codes. I'm saying I may only do one thing in federal, one thing in state, one thing in county. That one thing could be nursing. That one thing could be facility support services. And one thing could be landscaping, just like P&L. They probably do federal contracts with GSA or something, or county or state, but they only do one thing. So one. The power of one is amazing. Sometimes when you focus on one thing, but you may do it in several avenues after you've gotten your feet wet in that one area. That way you're not, like just out there with only federal bids. And then we see how federal changed. And so would I completely leave federal bids? Absolutely not. Everything ebbs and flow in business, and it will come back, just like the stock market is down like 15,000, 1,500 points. So some people are leaving it, other people are looking at it as a buying opportunity. Some people are leaving federal, and others are looking at it as a way to get to know and there's less competition, and they're looking at the glass being half full instead of half empty. It's all about how you look at it. So maybe sometimes when more people are doing one thing, you do the opposite, because I've never seen the herds of people always are a little behind. So in other words, maybe 10% of the people are doing one thing and the other 90 are doing something else. Then you might want to do what the 10% of the people are doing in the right area, not in the wrong area. So maybe federal government is an area to still stay in, but to soften the blow, because right now it's kind of going in different directions. You can really focus on disaster recovery, and you can do it on a state level, get really good, then start doing it more on a federal level if that's a place for you, or focus on state and county bids. But I would automatically add government contracting, where it's federal, state, county. Definitely look at a state bid, a county bid, and a city bid. I know individuals that have had much success who have never won a federal bid and have done extremely well in the federal, in the state space. And I have some people that have done federal and never done anything in state. But I know now is probably the time to look at a state bid if you're looking at that. So what I would love to do is share with you what you can do if you're interested in coming along with me and maybe having some of the success I personally had, and Deborah and Pam have had, other students. I know Brea's had great success in this area. So one of my favorite, like I mentioned, and like I said, that is something you can do, but you may not want to 100%. This is me having a good time in Aruba. Why do I show this? Not to brag, but to say that I wanted to be able to work from anywhere, and the middleman helped me do that. Once I got up everything and running, notice I said once everything was up and running, and I made sure that I had everyone in place, I then could go and take time off that I would not be able to do if I was doing the work myself. I still worked a day job until I got positioned to be able to leave my day job. So I used other people while I was at work. But this is one of the things I like: freedom of finance and freedom of time. And the state contracts utilizing the subcontracting middleman method gave me the ability to do both. So this is one of those contracts I talked about. It's expired, but it's a pool contract for Miami-Dade. I think they had like 14 vendors, and it was like 3 million, 3.6, and it was a 14-year contract. So this is us having a great time at my conferences. A lot of things I only have for my students. Only my students are going to be able to come to some of my workshops because they're absolutely free. Only my students are going to be able to win one of the all expense trips where I bring you to DC and work with you in my office one-on-one, just you and I, getting to know each other, spending time, and setting up everything for your business. I noticed that we have more quantum leaps when I've had some VI people that come, pay for everything, and they've had great success. James has gone on to win lots of contracts, and so have several of the people in this room, whether it be a 10,000 or 50,000 or 250,000 or a 85 million. They've been able to do well. So this is us doing still training. This is one of our dinner parties, talking about how to win government contracts, eating and fellowshipping together and networking. This is how you build those teams we talk about. And this is us when we go to DC and do some networking. And this is me at the conference, the 34th annual upcoming conference. It'll be here April the 14th and 15th in my conference, to prepare you for this conference, to talk and to see what's your elevator pitch, what your signature offer. Because as you can see, there are thousands of buyers there, and our goal is to get you ready for it. So there's some people that are coming because they want to do state bids, so they want to get with other people they can team with. They're no longer maybe interested in federal right now, but they still want to get the information. So it's still a great place to go in fellowship. So I've been in business for a long time, and I realized that one thing that messed me up in the beginning is I didn't have a system. I was all everywhere. I didn't know what to do first. Do I do the requirements? Do I find the vendors? Do I get the payroll? Do I get the money together, or wait until I get the bid and then get all that? In other words, I didn't have a system. And a system can have you running all everywhere, because it's not how good you are, it's how good your system is. Because you have a system when you can do the middleman. You can't do the middleman without a system. You have to have a system in place that runs like clockwork, especially if you're doing the middleman and if you're still doing a 9 to 5. Would you kind of agree with that, Bree?
I agree 100%.
Yeah. So that's how good you know how you are. I can go on vacation for 2 weeks, and my systems are what run my business and get everything together for my employees and my freelance people. The systems do that. And we have a system when someone sends us an email, it automatically sends you something saying, we received your email, and then we have an e-ticket, and all that's our systems. We don't rely on, just, oh, well, I hope we find out who sent us an email. We have a system in place. So that's how you want to set up your business. Now, what I love to offer you is an opportunity to get over the overwhelm and look at the transformation. Imagine yourself a year from now and where you want to be. Do you still want to be where you are? You know where you are. Do you want to be somewhere further? Do you want to be able to have the ability to travel and work, which we call WFA, work from anywhere? Do you want to be able to go to Costa Rica for a month? Do you want to be able to be there for your child if she has to, go to a daycare she doesn't like, and you have the financial and the time to take her out of that daycare and wait till you find another one? That's what money does. Money is a tool, and money is a great thing to have in addition to everything else. You want to have all the other, and success means different things to different people. For me, it's freedom, being able to go to the beach and stay a weekend starting on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or not a weekend, but go during the week when everyone else is going on the weekends, or going to the grocery store because everyone else is doing a mad rush on a Saturday and Sunday, and I have enough freedom to go on a Tuesday, Wednesday during the day. All of that is what means success to me because it gives me the financial and the time freedom. I've had businesses where I had a lot of money, but not a lot of time. And I don't like that. I don't want my business to run me. I want to run my business. So think about when you close your eyes, where you are now, how long you've been trying to get to your next phase. Is it plausible that you're going to be able to get there on your own? I know once I started looking at what I needed to do to invest in my company, and it was hard. It was hard to pay 4,000 for a class, or a course, or 6,000 for a mentorship. But I look at how much I gain by following not just anybody. I wasn't going to just do it with a random person. It had to be someone that was well ahead of me, and I thought they had the tools to get me there, and not just the tools to get themselves there, but the ability to get me there as well. And I looked at their community. Do they have a good community of people? So having a blueprint where someone has already done this over and over and over, having people that are a part of that community that are able to share things with you, they're not hoarding the information like, oh, I got it, now you get it. And having someone that is accessible, that you can call and that you can email and that you can be acknowledged, to me, is what you look at. Now, all of us can do a lot of things on our own with today's technology, but it definitely does speed the process along twofold. And that's what I've realized. So, are you willing to win a contract on your own? Don't stop. Continue on. I've given you a couple of things to look at. So don't stop this process. But if you would love to have someone have a system that's worked with a community that would be more than happy to welcome you, a support team, other people that are going to be with you to give you inspiration, then I'd love to offer you my Crack the Gov Code State course. And it's a 4-week live course starting this Monday, April the 7th. And we conclude on April the 28th. It is at 12 noon every Monday, and it is all about understanding state contracts. And this works for anyone that puts the work in. When you hear about the 85 million and the 1 million state contract winners, they put the work in. They're not just closing their eyes, they're putting the work in. So I always emphasize it's not going to work unless you're willing to put the work in. So you don't even want to invest your energy and time if you're not going to do it and be committed, because that's what it definitely requires. But oh, is it worth it? So just think where you are now. Think about what you've been saying you want to do. Think about where you thought you'd be. Time goes fast. Will you be in the same place next year saying the same thing, or do you want to be somewhere different? And so it's all about that. And it's all about knowing what you want to do and doing it. So this is what you receive 4 weeks. That's valued like $697. If you go on my website, for me to do an hour consulting with you is at $300. You're getting me for 1 hour for 4 weeks. Our bidding platform that has all the bids all combined with all the value of the contracts, you get that for 2 months, and $20 after that. So anything you need, you're going to have. It's not going to be you need and then you need something else. Everything you're going to have. After the 2 months, if you need more time, you're going to be able to have access to that for only $20 a month. Also, we have a private Facebook group and we do training, two trainings in addition to the 4 weeks. We're going to jump on a live training for Facebook and we're going to make sure that everyone is getting everything they need. So after the 4 weeks of ending on April 28th, we want to continue to give you support. One-on-one coaching with Miss M is going to be a part of that. And we have our ever so lovely resource vault where you would be able to get all of the information from the entire uh, platform that we have for our research vault. So that includes special training, how to get credit up 150,000 for our business. All of that you get access to, and that's definitely valued over like $997 because we have people in there that have won millions of dollars of contracts and they're giving you their secret. So this will include 24/7 access to the Research Vault, live modules. It will be recorded, PDF, test assessment, checklist, support, Facebook group, live support training. We do have a success team that is available Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 10 to 12. And then my favorite email support. And the last is our coffee contracts and conversation call in. That's when we have a special call in a couple of times in the month where you can talk about anything for 30 minutes and other people are on there with you. So it's kind of like a little podcast. So our Crack the Gov Code state enrollment is open now, and you would just register at the Crack the Gov Code Academy, or we have you have a link that, or you would definitely want to give us a call because we'll be closing them on, we close the doors on a Sunday at 11:59 p.m. So you could go to our Crack the Gov Code Academy and you will see the link for the state course and that will be open and then the doors will be closed and we'll be starting on Monday. If you do decide to sign up, then you would get all the information to move forward. And our class begins April 7th to April 28th, and you do get like a little graduation and all of that. So that's it. Everything for $497.50 or for $498.50, and that is the one-time payment to have lifetime access. It will be a platform. It's going to be live. It's recorded, but we are going to have a platform that we build all of this and you'll have access to this. So you'll be a lifetime student for this particular state course. Okay. So I know that in today's day, 498 is not a little bit of money. I don't even begin to act like it is. I understand that it is a leap, an investment in yourself, and I get it because it is not something that is taken, lightly or easily. I know it is very hard to come by that money, and I know I don't want to waste anyone's time. So if you know you're not going to take it seriously, you probably don't want to do this. You're not going to be committed, probably won't want to do this. But if you know that you don't want to be in the same place and you need someone that's going to help you get there, then I would love to be that person that assists you with that. So if there are no other questions, you have anything else, Miss Bree, you want to add?
Uh, nope, nope, I'm good.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. And if you have any questions, the link doesn't work, you want to, join, then please reach out to us at 407-986-8228. That's 407-986-8228. Send us a text message. I'm interested in course, your state course, because we have several different programs, and we will make sure that we get you all signed up as long as it's before April the 7th at 11:59. Okay. 11:59, April 6th. So you can be ready for that day. So other than that, you guys have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for joining me, Bree. You've got my number. Reach out to me if you need anything as well. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.
Thank you.